Hi, my name is Alan Bigelow. I'm the writer at webyarns.com, and this is my home in Buffalo, New York. Welcome. Every once in a while people ask me questions as a digital writer, and I try to answer them as best I can. And so, for example, often I'm asked, for example, what first motivated you to write electronic literature? And to tell you the truth, I was a traditional in traditional print publication for many years before I became a digital writer. And then with the advent of the web, I recognized the possibilities within multimedia and decided, because I was bored, frankly, with traditional print, that it was about time to make a move into something a little bit more exciting and different. So I became a digital writer for the web and immersed myself in it completely starting in 1999. And actually it's been one of the most freeing experiences of my life. It's possible that one day maybe I'll go back to traditional print, but right now, I don't think so. Oh, well, another question I get all the time is, why do you continue to write eLit? And to tell you the truth, I continue to write eLit because, frankly, I can't think of doing anything else. Another question I get a lot, at least recently, is where did I draw inspiration for one of my pieces called When I Was President. This piece I wrote around 2007, and George W. Bush was president at the time. And I looked at his presidency and I realized the potentials for tragedy and also honor and optimism within the presidency. Realizing, of course, that he didn't succeed in anything but the tragedy portion of that. So I thought about a fictional character that I could create that would exemplify a president that was trying to do more than anyone had ever done before. The character I created was entirely fictional, and I would say beyond the bounds of reason, such a character could not exist and hopefully will never exist, because what he dreams are too metaphorical to be real. I would say, certainly, if I'm thinking about other pieces, inspiration comes from anything and everything. Another question I get is, do you believe there's anything you can communicate with electronic mediums that you cannot in traditional print? And I really have to say the answer to that is, not really. I mean, once you have a good idea, it seems to me if you have a good idea, you can communicate in any form. It doesn't have to be electronic literature. It can be print. It can be pictures, paintings, it could be anything. It's really the ideas that count, and once you have those ideas, it's really, if you're driven enough, you can find any form you want to express those ideas. You don't need to limit yourself to electronic mediums, or any other for that matter. You can just do whatever you want. It's the ideas that count. They'll find a way to manifest themselves if you get it developed. So, if I wasn't working in electronic literature, or electronic media, I'd find another way. eLit's role in traditional phase of literature, I'd say is, well, actually, it's a pretty simple one. Electronic literature right now is, I think, coming to the foreground, especially with younger people, as a way of reading literature and experiencing literature. To call it a phase, I think, would perhaps be too strong a word, because we look at that because we serve as a bridge between older forms, the traditional print, for example, and new forms of literature. But the fact of the matter is that the younger generations, even the generations that have not been born now, will not see such a bridge. They won't even experienced it. They will only be born into electronic literature, and so they'll know nothing else. So will books always survive? I think so. But a few years ago I thought that books would probably survive forever, but now, traditional books, I'm not so sure. Another question I get, of course, is, do you think it fits nicely into already defined categories of literature? And I have to tell you the truth, the categories of literature, I've never been much of a big fan for that. Categories, once you establish a category, all you do is find an exception to that category, and as a result, the category becomes defunct. What's the point of making categories if you can find exceptions for them all the time? So, not a big fan of categories, so I don't really know how to fit something into a category when I don't believe in categories to begin with. Recently, I've become to believe that after 10 years of very much immersing myself in electronic media, and particularly interactivity, I've become to believe that actually the most powerful part of a story is the story itself. That's what seems to me to drive engagement with an audience. So increasingly these days I've been thinking less about having interactivity, about having strong visuals. I mean, I still try to incorporate them, but I'm thinking now about story and how story can compel a reader. And so, well, does the work's power stem from elsewhere? Frankly, I have no idea. Well, thanks very much for visiting me. This has been a very brief talk, but I appreciate your comments. Perhaps later on, if you see this video and want to comment further, or even if you want to come to Buffalo and want to visit me, please go ahead and drop by. Goodbye.